Hey guys, this is Whitney with Lights Camera No.
What's up, everybody? It's Lauren, and this week we are discussing the 2000 film What Lies Beneath with a very special guest, Collin. Welcome to the show,
Thank you.
Collin.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, Collin is my co-author from our book that we once wrote called Good Riddance. That is no longer for sale anywhere.
Yeah.
Snaps for you.
Exist.
Why is it not for sale anymore?
It has been
We
wiped from
decided it was
existence.
terrible. We decided it was awful.
Since nobody else would edit us, we edited ourselves, and this is not very good. So
Yeah, we were
Hey,
like,
you know what? You still wrote it.
we did.
we did. We wrote a book, and it's
Like-
long.
It's like 85,000 words. What was it? Like 70, 75?
Yeah, it's like 2 books in one.
Mm-hmm.
Authors. I'm here for it.
So, yeah. So Collin and I have been bugging him to be on here as a guest for what seems like probably, as long as I've had the podcast going. I've wanted him to be like, come on. But he hates horror movies, so he's against it.
But he has a very special
cheap horror
connection.
movies. I like good horror movies.
All right.
Okay, so only the good ones then he can come back for. But he has a special connection to this movie.
Yes, he does, which is why we're excited to have him here to talk about What Lies Beneath. So, excuse my voice. I sound like I've been super sick and I sound like an 80-year-old, heavy smoker. I've just been puffing away in my room by myself. But I feel like I say this every week. We're doing things a little different this week. It's just every week, something new. You never know what to expect. So we are separating things down into a few segments to make it easier for our listeners to follow along. But I want to let everyone know, as we do all the time, it is a spoiler heavy podcast. So if you have not seen What Lies Beneath and you're interested in it, it came out 21 years ago. What are you waiting on?
I think the statute of limitations is a little bit past.
Right.
Yeah, we're good.
Brian
whatever.
from Horror Movie Club, he would disagree. Hardcore. Gets very upset with spoilers, but I also believe that there is a statute of limitations on.
Or you could just watch the trailer too, and then
Yes.
That's what I hear. So anyways, first up, we are going to go through a summary of the movie to get everybody caught up. If you haven't seen it and don't care, this is the most important part of the show for you, because now you will know what we're talking about. So
Exactly.
this movie stars Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford. They are a couple living in Vermont, Claire and Norman Spencer. Their daughter, Caitlin, has just moved out for college, although none of us are sure why that was included because it has nothing to do with the rest of the plot. Claire is overly obsessed with the new neighbors, which, did you guys think that they had just moved in, or had they moved in for a while and just started acting strange?
The latter. I didn't get the impression that they were fresh neighbors.
I thought they said new neighbors, or we're spying on the new neighbors or something.
Something, and then she brought them like the basket.
Yeah, I think they're new
welcome them
neighbors.
to the
See,
neighbors.
I had it flip-flopped. I thought like they had work being done to that house and like they themselves had just settled in, but maybe I just misunderstood that plot
Regardless.
point.
You've got Mary and Warren Fuhr next door.
Fuhr.
Who do not seem to have a happy marriage at all. Things are very tense, and Mary's crying in the garden a lot. Claire is being nosy and asking her if she's okay when she hears her crying in the garden, and things are weird. But Claire then starts to grow suspicious of Warren because she thinks that maybe he has killed his wife because he hasn't seen Mary in a few days. And I don't know about you guys, but I do not pay close enough attention to my neighbors to know. Listen, there's some of my neighbors that could be dead and I wouldn't know it until the ambulance showed up.
It's funny because literally, okay, so it's a family of 4, the parents and 2 older kids next door. And the parents have been not missing, but I haven't seen them in months. They just strolled up real casually up the driveway today. And I asked Brendan, my husband, if he had seen them or talked to them. And he was like, I didn't say anything. It's not my business. Me, I'm like, are they back for good? Where were they?
What
happening? So I would absolutely adopt the Claire method of thinking.
See, I just don't pay enough attention.
Oh, I'm in everybody's business.
I couldn't tell you what cars most of the people on my street drive. I just have no idea.
They were their only neighbors too. I mean, they're only 2 houses out in the middle of nowhere together.
That's true. So
and her daughter did just go away, and she had nothing else to do except garden and. Apparently
Yes.
pry on her neighbors.
And go down and look at things in her basement. It's weird. That we also take a short break to point out that Norman is a scientist working in a lab. I'm not really sure. He's some sort of cardiology.
Genetics.
Yes,
Genetics.
But they make sure to show us that they're giving this little tiny rat some medicine that paralyzes it for 5 to 10 minutes, like completely paralyzes it, but it's completely awake and knows everything that's happening. And it is the most heavy-handed foreshadowing of any movie that I've seen recently. So Claire starts to believe that she is being haunted because of weird stuff that's happening at the house, along with the neighbor, Mary, being missing. So things are getting knocked off walls, the radios are turning on, and as Collin would say, there's just a bunch of cheap scares, a bunch of cheap jump scares that don't have anything to do with the actual story that's happening. So she's convinced that Mary's dead, and she's randomly goes into her bathroom and finds a tub full of water, which doesn't alarm her anyway. She's just like, well, this is strange. And she reaches in to pull the plug on the tub, and she sees another person that looks similar to her staring back at her. Another jump scare. She jumps back, and then of course, like classic, like scary movie, something starts writing something in the mirror that's all steamed up, and it just says, So she's freaking out. She runs down the steps, she trips and falls. She looks over at her computer, and it's repeatedly typing MEF, MEF, MEF over and over on her computer because she was playing some solitaire game or something. I don't know. And so she thinks it's Mary Fuhrer, like those are the initials. And she thinks like, means like, I'm dead. Hurry up and do something about it. And she's trying, but Norman is like, I'm going to gaslight the shit out of my wife, and just continues to tell her that she's crazy and that he sends her to a shrink. He like makes fun of her in front of this like couple that they go out to dinner with and takes her completely off guard, which I thought was weird. They seemed like they were on good terms. So I guess that was Norman getting edgy, that she was starting to snoop around, that things were seeming weird. So she gets back home. She's by herself all the time. The guy, her husband, he must work 24 hours a day because she is never there with him. She's always by herself. And that's of course when all the weird stuff happens. Picture frame falls off, sees the back of the picture frame. There's a newspaper clipping. Of course, there's a newspaper clipping that has the word something about a missing woman. No, it's not a missing woman. It's what is the news? It says Madison Elizabeth Frank, but I can't remember what the newspaper article was about.
The authorities are searching for a missing
Mm-hmm.
grad student. Yeah.
Okay. And then she goes to her computer, and I guess there's an online phone book for just Vermont.
Database of missing people.
I mean, was it a database of missing people, or was it looked like she was just like, I'm going to type in a name.
Yeah, I think it was missing, but it actually, this is diving a bit into the trivia, but those are all like people that worked on the movie, except for the fictional
Madison
character.
Elizabeth Frank.
No, yeah, but it was just like a missing persons thing, and naturally they just all had links to their like missing persons info.
I love late 90s, early 2000s computer programs.
They're the best.
They will give you any information that you need. They will give you high quality photos. It doesn't matter. They will.
It did take a while to load though, the picture of her.
It was still crystal
clear pixel by pixel.
Though. They were working with that same internet juju from the rental, I guess. So Claire starts to investigate this Madison Elizabeth Frank, and she goes to her mom's. She finds where her mom lives, goes to her mom's house. The mom is very, very laid back and calm about her daughter just being missing. She's like, oh, just watching my stories while she's watching soap operas at home and like holding her cat. She hasn't touched her daughter's room, talking about how smart she was. She was just go to Princeton, but she was a big partier, all this stuff. And while Claire is there, she steals a braid of hair, which I found very odd. That was
creepy.
Still hanging out. Like, who just has like a braid of hair that's stuck to a picture frame?
I don't have any of that.
Yeah, and I didn't know why she stole it. Like, do you guys think that she stole it to perform the spell, or because she wanted to do another, like, because she'd already had this one seance with her friend? Do you think that she did it to perform a spell, or she was just being weird and creepy. Was like, I need something of hers,
Yeah, I think there was
an intent.
a supernatural kind of
Yeah,
intent. Yeah.
agree.
Well, this leads me to ask too, because then she goes in, she comes back, she gets possessed by Madison. And the only clue that we know that she's possessed by Madison is that her eyes slightly change color. It's
Well, didn't her voice slightly change too? Just like barely.
the thing I noticed is she got a Boston accent.
Okay, yeah, she had
The-
some sort of twang.
So she starts acting odd. Norman comes home. She's acting really like sexually aggressive, and she gets on top of him and she says, I think she's starting to suspect something. And he says, who? And she says, your wife. And he pushes her off. And it's like Claire doesn't know that that happened to her. She seems confused by it all. So after that, Norman attempts to kill himself by tossing a hairdryer into the shower with him. And all I could think of was the scene from The Ring where the guy was like,
Oh no.
he was like quadrupling down on the fact that
He had
wanted
like extension cords.
the guy in The
God, that
Ring
poor
was
man.
like, this, well, I am not blowing a breaker with this. Like, I am going to kill myself. And he had like extension cords and like every electrical appliance in his house.
Yeah.
But Norman didn't think that far ahead and just threw in one measly hairdryer. That's not going to do it.
Do more.
Yeah, try harder next time, Norman. Then Claire becomes obsessed again. She dives into the lake and she discovers this box. She's about to grab it and bring it up to the top. We just got Norman's fine after his little attempt. And anyways, he comes out just as Claire's jumping in. Before Claire can bring the box up, Norman gets her, brings her to the top so she doesn't get it. Claire remembers her friend Jody mentioning some little cafe in this town called Adamant that she saw Norman and a woman at once. They were arguing. So Claire, still on her mission of investigation, decides to drive out to Adamant, stops at this cafe. Then she sees a jewelry store right next door that has the same symbol as this key that she found. And it has the same symbol of a necklace, like this little, like, what's it called? A pendant or whatever.
Mhm.
At the bottom of the necklace that Madison is wearing in one of the photos. All of this comes out that really Norman was having an affair with Madison this whole time. So he tells Claire, yes, I was having an affair. Things were tense between us. I messed up. She came to the house and killed herself. And I didn't want to get in trouble. So I put her body in a car and drove it into the lake, which seems excessive. If it seems very suspicious if you really didn't have anything to do with it. Like, why would you not just call 911 and be like, somebody killed themselves in my house?
He didn't want to get caught.
I guess.
But yeah.
Yeah. So Claire tells him he has to confess. He picks up the phone. You hear him hit 3 numbers and he says, send the police, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I'm going to go take a shower and get ready and put some clothes on before the police get here. Well, of course, Norman didn't really call the police. He pulled the old 411 instead of 911 trick. So he was just getting some information on something. He wasn't calling the police. Claire figures it out. Norman, this is where the drug comes into play, pops up behind her, puts a rag over her mouth, which, by the way, this part was really bad because he didn't even cover her nose the whole time. He just had it like right here. She was totally still getting oxygen. Like, she could have breathed just fine. Anyways, the drug takes effect. She's knocked out, but she's still like witnessing everything, which just seems like an extra like punch in the gut. Just seems like an extra dick move. To like, here, you have to be witness to your torture.
I'm
not just going to kill you like slowly. I'm going to kill you slowly and you're going to have to watch it all happen. So he puts her in the tub to make it look like she's like drowning. And then he notices that she has the necklace on. So he goes to unclasp the necklace. And when he does, the cheapest jump scare of all, her head flops back and it's Madison's corpse. And when Norman sees Madison, he hops like backwards and smashes his head on the mirror and trips and falls. And looks like he breaks his neck on the side of the sink and he's super bloody. Things aren't going well for him. Claire's about to drown in the bathtub and then her one toe gets enough movement in it so she can pull the plug on the tub. She gets out. She gets in the truck. Of course, Norman's not really dead. He's in the truck hiding and they crash into the lake. She thinks they're both going to die. And then they find, as they're sinking down, they see Madison's car, and Madison's corpse floats up and grabs Harrison Ford on the wrist, allowing Claire to escape. Claire gets away. And the next thing we know, it's winter and Claire is laying a red rose on a gravestone. And you're like, oh, I guess she still loves her husband. And then it's like, psych, she's putting the red rose on Madison's grave instead. The end.
And then as it's fading, you see a face appear in the snow, and it's all kind of freaky.
I
looking.
read about that, but I didn't notice it. I have to.
Oh, I
It's
didn't
there. You
either.
gotta, it's kind of right in the foreground. You see kind of two eyes and a nose and a mouth, and it's kind of like ghost looking. It's
Now,
kinda
whose face is that supposed to be?
Madison's.
Amber
Okay.
Valletta.
Amber
Not
Valletta.
Harrison Ford.
Not Harrison Ford. No, it was Madison.
Darn.
Amber Valletta was really big on, I remember her from MTV, right? Wasn't she she did something on, like, wasn't there like a fashion show on MTV or something?
I've always known her as like a model / actress person. I
That
don't
name
remember
doesn't
what I've
sound
seen her in.
familiar, but
Yeah,
perhaps.
I remember her from the 90s for sure.
I love it. Okay, well now it's time for Lights Camera Trivia. I want to open it up to Collin first though, because I'm just like very interested in his involvement in this movie, which was not really involvement, but you were there. You saw it happen. Tell us about
I
it.
directed it. I wrote the screenplay.
Yeah.
I directed it.
That's actually his claim to fame. That's why we brought him on.
Yeah.
That's why he's here. Surprise everyone.
Yeah, so I was and still am living in Vermont. And in the summer of 1999, which is when they filmed this, before it came out in 2000, I was working at the local NBC affiliate as a reporter, and went out to the set one day where the houses are, their houses and the neighbor's house, the scary neighbor's house. So I got to kind of walk around the set, and Harrison and Michelle weren't there. But kind of got to see where it was all filmed, and the crews were all wandering around and stuff. So that was kind of neat. And then my wife actually works at UVM, and they filmed one of the scenes in a house right next to her office. So she actually saw Harrison Ford one night filming outside her office. So, and Harrison used to go down to all the pubs downtown and all that kind of stuff. So I got the little Vermont connection. Since I've been alive, only 2 films have filmed in Vermont that I know of. Well, Funny Farm, Chevy Chase's, so that's 3. But this and Me, Myself, and Irene, the Jim Carrey film with Renee Zellweger, were both filming at the same time in 1999. So it was kind of neat to.
Wait, when was
What a
Funny
year for
Farm
you.
filmed?
Funny Farm was mid 80s, like 86, 87 or something. Beetlejuice was Southern
Oh, yeah.
Vermont too. Yeah. So
You're just
I
coming
mean,
up with a whole list
a
now.
lot
You're
of it was sound stages, but like the
Yeah.
opening shot of Beetlejuice when they fly over the
Mhm.
town and stuff. So that's actually
It's so cool
down
to see
in
your
town.
town and
Yeah, it's
things.
kind of neat.
Did you interview any of the crew at all, or?
I was trying to remember. It was 2 years ago. I must have interviewed somebody, because I know we talked to the neighbors and the local
Mhm.
businesses about how excited they were to have this movie filming next door and everything. But I do distinctly remember that neither Michelle nor Harrison were on set that day. that was the headline in my book.
The real tragedy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Did they use a lot of extras from around town, like in the? Or did you know people that were?
Yeah, no, I don't know anybody that was in it, and I don't know how much of it. I mean, the scene where Claire confronts the neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that was like a dinner party kind of thing, and I don't even know if that was filmed at Vermont. The only things that I know were filmed in Vermont were all the bridge scenes, because that's the bridge right next to the state park where they filmed all the house scenes when they were in the house. And then the Adamant Country Store was actually a abandoned building in Charlotte, which is kind of the next town up.
Is Adamant a real town?
It is a real town, but not anywhere near where they say it is in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But everything was filmed right in Addison County, which is the county south of Burlington. That's where Middlebury is. And so a lot of those, like the exterior shots were, but any of the interior and office shots and like the restaurant shot, and I don't know where those were.
They were out in LA, like an LA soundstage, I think. They got what they needed, from your neck of the woods, and then they left.
Yeah.
We mentioned this earlier, but Robert Zemeckis shot this because of Castaway. Castaway was put on a halt because Tom Hanks had to lose some weight, which I was like real stressed. I was like, that the pressure that must be on a
Well,
person to have to do
like,
that.
what part did he have to film where he had to lose more weight? He was so skinny for the majority of that movie.
Well, when he crashed versus when like 2 years later when he's got the beard and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So yeah, he had to lose like 50 pounds or something like that.
And
in, like,
safely too. Like you
yeah,
can't just like they have to eat
in
right
like
and
8
still.
months or something. It
Mhm.
was like some obscene amount of time. So and the whole crew was only waiting for him to lose weight. I was like, no pressure there, Tommy.
Only Tom Hanks could do that though.
Yeah, everyone else would be like, no, I'm not. No.
So we also mentioned this earlier, but the trailer for this movie, in my research, I saw that it got so much backlash because literally it's about 2 minutes 15, maybe 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But having seen this movie and then watching the trailer, it literally covers every key plot point that you would need to know the story of this movie. Like from her visions to like Harrison Ford's affair, literally everything in the 2 minutes and 15 seconds of the trailer. I was embarrassed.
That's so funny because I like people complain about trailers spoiling movies a lot, and I'm not a person that really cares about spoilers all that much for most of the time. There's just a few movies I can think of that I've been like, I really don't want to spoil this for me. Something like Cabin in the Woods or something similar to that. But I never, maybe I'm just not observant, but like I never watch trailers and think like, oh, this is going to spoil the movie or that spoiled it.
I will say this. Today's trailers, like if you see the movie and then go back and watch the trailer, they're edited in such a way where they're like clip, 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 and you'll be like, oh, that's technically a spoiler. It'll be like a scene, but like there's no context. This one, they didn't do that. It was literally like the audio that you needed, like the exchange, the conversations, like everything was in the trailer that you needed. They don't do it in a way that they would do today that doesn't spoil things technically. You still got to go see it.
Yeah, I just I know a lot of people that just will not watch trailers because they are convinced that they are going to ruin the movie for them.
I respect that, I suppose.
But I don't.
Particularly like back then. I mean, they did that all the time.
Spoil things. Yeah.
Yeah, spoil things. Yeah.
Well, trailers were a lot longer, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe because they just thought people didn't get to see. You didn't see as many trailers as you do now. Like now, as
they really had to hook you.
Hits, it's like you go to YouTube to watch it.
Now they have trailers for trailers.
They really do.
They really do.
Well, trailer. This is a trailer telling you that the trailer is coming out in 3 weeks.
It's true. It's just like words and noises. But despite the backlash that the trailer got, this movie was still the 10th highest grossing film of 2000.
I saw that.
Shocked me. It made $291 million in the box office. And I don't know, like top 10 seems...
I think it was purely star driven.
Yep.
I mean, purely. Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer, directed by Zemeckis, produced by Spielberg. Yeah, I mean,
that makes sense.
I'm curious to go back and watch the trailer now because
you must.
So it gives away that Harrison Ford is the bad guy?
Yes. Now, maybe I don't think it's because I have seen it, but people, and like I said, like all these reviews of people reviewed a trailer, but they're like, this spoils the movie. It sucks.
Wonder if a lot of that was driven by the fact that people wanted to see Harrison Ford be a bad guy.
Could be.
They're just curious.
Could be. They recycled so we talked about James Remar, who is in Dexter. I know him from Dexter. He plays Harry, Dexter's dad / voice of reason. But he is the neighbor. What's his name? Something Fuhr. Warren Fuhr. But that was actually one of my favorite scenes at that dinner party where like they have squashed the whole "I didn't kill my wife" thing. And he like sees Michelle Pfeiffer and then like pretends to choke his wife. I was like, what a dick move.
I know.
But it was also hilarious. But anyway, when he says, "I didn't kill my wife," that line was actually a recycled Harrison Ford line from Fugitive.
Oh.
We love when things come full circle.
Love it. Love it. Huge fan. Huge fan of it.
There were also several nods to Alfred Hitchcock.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yes. Well, Hitchcock in general, because the lead was a blonde, but Hitchcock specifically, Rear Window. When Claire is looking out her bedroom window, it's dark out, she's spying on the neighbor, and then like it's another jump scare and she sees the neighbor spying back.
Yes.
That's a clap back to Rear Window.
This movie gave me a lot of Rear Window vibes.
Yeah.
The whole which, well, maybe this was more Psycho, I guess. You know, at the end where she's getting into the truck and she's panicked because she doesn't know where he is, and all of a sudden he stands up and you just see a silhouette in the curtain.
Yeah.
That seemed very Hitchcockian to me.
For sure.
Yeah,
And
the whole thing was very Hitchcock. Yeah, I agree. The music cues and the
yes,
and just the general aura. I mean, it was all very, very Hitchcock.
And since we're talking about Hitchcock and Rear Window, this is my petition to watch Secret Window on the podcast because Whitney won't let me. Just putting it out there. Thank you for your time.
It makes an appearance. That request makes an appearance in almost every episode.
It's taking over the labyrinth spirals. That's what's happening.
Either David Bowie or Johnny Depp in Secret Window.
Listen here, I have one more trivia tidbit. Okay.
All right, continue.
Just had to squeeze that request in.
Continue.
The thing that I appreciate stuff like this, but so her psychiatrist's office was literally in a basement, which was literally what lies beneath. Get it?
Yeah, I got it. It was always raining at every appointment too.
I just loved it.
I love that he offered her a fireball candy.
Yeah. What a random candy to have.
How completely random was that?
Yeah. Here, would you like a fireball? Like
Have
what?
a fireball.
Is it gonna make you open up more? I don't know.
It's like your lozenges, your special lozenges.
They're Ricola and they have a drop of extra menthol or something in them. Thank you very much. That's
Listen
why you have
here.
to chew them at the end.
Why would they do that?
I think we should. I think we're there.
Let's go.
I actually don't have a lot of why would they do that. My main one is probably going to be one that not everybody else thinks, but my whole thing was, if you think that there's a ghost in your house, like why would you want to go get a Ouija board and then go get like a lock of hair to try to get her to possess you or to like talk to it? I don't listen. There's any sort of ghost or spirit in my house, I don't want to communicate with it. I'm just going to move. Just excuse me. Let me get my things. I'll be out of your hair in just a minute. Mr.
You're not going to like
Ghost.
try to live. Can we live peacefully together?
No,
or?
no, absolutely not. It's
Fair
only
enough.
peaceful for so long. Eventually they're going to turn. It's inevitable.
My biggest thing with Claire was like why she continued to share nuggets of information after literally everyone in her life gaslit her. Like, just keep that stuff to yourself and figure it out. Stop sharing.
Yeah.
They don't believe you.
Well, and also it's like, do you not realize how stupid you sound? Like, I understand these things are happening to you, but you sound really stupid when you explain it.
Right.
You could do a better job.
And that's a thing too. I mean, you gotta recognize that this is a world in which ghosts live. And for this to work, other people have to acknowledge that ghosts are a thing.
Yeah.
So if she's on an island and is the only person that thinking there are ghosts, nobody else is going to go, oh, you're probably right. It probably is a ghost.
Yeah.
Imagine her reaction if that's what happened.
Well, thank you.
Wait, what?
Thanks for pointing that out to me. It's
just kind of, I don't know. You know, Whitney, how I feel about like horror movies where things couldn't happen, like ghost things, like Scream, good example, could happen. Hopefully never does, but I mean, there's nothing in that movie that couldn't happen in real life. This is all based on paranormal and ghosts and mummies and corpses and, so
she does not get down with. Collin doesn't vibe with supernatural stuff.
No.
I think that's why I like the supernatural stuff, is because I'm like, it probably won't happen.
Yeah, probably won't, but there's a little tiny nugget in the back of my brain that's like, maybe. And when it does, I'll be like,
well, exactly. I mean, I am not going to lie. Every single time I've woken up in the middle of the night for the past like 3 weeks, I've looked in my closet and thought, Bathsheba.
Oh my God.
And
same.
I wondered if maybe she's in there.
She is. Good night.
And then I don't get up and I just go back to sleep because I'm like, if she is, she's going to have to pull me out of bed.
It's been my whole life since we watched Insidious again. or
Yeah.
since I watched Insidious again. And then yes, Bathsheba didn't help.
Okay, so get yourself a Ouija board.
No.
Right. Yeah, right. I was at my
Do
grandmom's last weekend.
not.
She has one. I was like, where is it? I don't
Ugh.
want it.
I'm
Anyway,
telling you.
the only other thing that like drove me insane and was a why would they do that in this movie? And I understand that this was like a necessary plot point and that the neighbor was the red herring, but I really just felt like they spent too much time, they devoted too much time to that story,
Mhm.
and it drove me insane. That was the 45 minutes they could have cut out of this movie. And I say this all the time, 45, it's always 45 minutes. That could have been, you could have just given him maybe 3.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of red herrings and a lot of unnecessary. I mean, the entire middle part of this movie just
Yeah.
dragged.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing with his dad, and he was so edgy about his dad, like discovering this. And then there was the whole thing with her losing her first husband did he die from cancer? They made it seem like it was weird that she was a widow so young, and that, maybe Harrison Ford, I don't know, the way they framed it was odd to me. And then there was the whole thing with her where they casually mentioned that she wrapped a truck around a tree, and then they never came back to it.
Just, yeah, they peppered little details in like, oh,
like,
maybe
well,
this will throw them off.
Was that
Well-
just to like make us think that maybe she was brain damaged from the car accident?
I read there was one guy who was doing a little research on this, and there was a YouTube guy, and I can't remember who it was, and I should probably give him credit. But he was saying this movie is terrible, but what if, she had been the killer and had not remembered because of this, wrapping your, wrapping the car around the tree and kind of losing your mind a little bit and not remembering big swaths of things. What if she had been the killer? Then it would have been at least a tolerable movie.
Yes, I would have enjoyed that.
That would have been interesting. But I mean, what about the very first scene in the movie is her shipping her daughter off to college for no apparent reason.
None. The daughter never
And the only time it comes up later, I think Harrison at one point says,
this will be a way for me and Caitlin to become closer.
You're just lonely because, our daughter is going away. It's just
it was like a sadness thing.
And it's the very first thing you see in the movie. It's the opening scene. And
I couldn't tell if they were trying to paint her as just very fragile, like this was a very fragile time in her life because she was so upset about her daughter going away. And, everyone seemed worried about her because her daughter left.
I think that's what they were going for.
If that's what you're going for, then make it clear that, 3 idiots on a podcast 20 years later aren't discussing how ineffective that was.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Exactly. No, I agree. I totally agree. This movie just it had a lot of extras that could have been cut out. And like Lauren and you both have said, apparently we can just watch the trailer and that's all you need to watch.
Please watch it.
So that was the only why would they do that thing for me? It didn't have a bunch, even though I felt like there was a lot wrong with this movie. It wasn't necessarily with the decisions that the characters made.
Exactly.
So
it was the way the movie was made.
And I think it was more screenplay than anything, because I think Harrison was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Michelle Pfeiffer was like lights out great.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even Zemeckis did a decent job. I mean, he, and Alan Silvestri did the music. And of course, it's very Bernard Herrmann-esque and kind of rip off of Psycho-y, kind of stuff.
So we're blaming the screenwriter.
I'm blaming Clark Gregg and his terrible.
Listen, Agent Coulson. You're the problem. It's you.
Yeah, it's him.
Okay, guys, are we ready to do our ratings then? Yes.
Ready. The ratings are in.
The ratings are in. And I'm giving it a big fat lights camera no for me. Actually, this is the first lights camera no I've given in a while, I feel like. This movie, I watched it when it first came out, when it was first released, and I appreciated it and thought it was good. It was very jumpy. I feel like now the jumps are a little cheap and not as effective. And I told Lauren and Collin earlier that part of the reason that this movie wasn't as good this time is because I already knew Harrison Ford was the bad guy. And apparently I didn't see the trailer when it first came out, because I remember being completely shocked seeing my beloved Han Solo, as a murderer. Didn't like it and was, Han shot first. Yes, I couldn't. It took it away this time because I couldn't remember very much about this movie, but all I remembered was that Harrison Ford was the bad guy. So it wasn't nearly as thrilling as it was originally, and the plot was kind of tired. Like, oh yeah, old professor having an affair with a student, like because. And it's like, listen, you got a beautiful wife at home, and that still wasn't enough. You're just a dick. Like there wasn't a whole lot. He didn't have a whole lot of redeeming qualities at all. So the story was just kind of boring. Scares were kind of cheap, and just didn't do a whole lot for me. And like Lauren said, it's 45 minutes too long. So it is a lights, camera, no for me.
I'm giving What Lies Beneath a lights, camera, no. I will die on this hill. This movie, I've said it once, I'll say it again. It's 45 minutes too long. Cut 45 minutes out of it. It'll probably still be bad because the plot was jumbled. I felt like this movie didn't know if it wanted to be like supernatural or a haunted house movie or a slasher. I felt like it wanted to hit all of those things, but it didn't do any of them particularly well. So it's a lights, camera, no from me.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I just like it, like watching it because, I was there, I saw it, being filmed. I've been to the set, and oh, that's where I buy groceries, and oh, I drove past there, and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's kind of neat to do that. And the same with Me, Myself, and Irene, which was also a not great movie, but kind of fun to watch because I watched him film it. So, but yeah, there were just way too many plot holes and all kinds of issues with this. The whole calling 911 and calling 411, and even when you call 411, you're still getting a person. So if you're talking to a person and they're hearing you confess to a murder, you're confessing to a murder.
They're probably going to call the police themselves.
They're probably going to call the police. Yeah, I mean,
hopefully.
There's a bunch of that stuff. So
the 411 guys, this is above my pay grade.
I'm out.
Okay, buddy, whatever. Talk to you later.
Yeah, sounds good.
Harrison Ford. So yeah, it's lights, camera, no. But I mean, but for a better screenplay, it could have been a decent movie.
Yeah, I feel like it had potential. I just didn't get. Yeah,
I agree.
So, all right, those are our ratings, and now we are going to keep you guys up to date with some of the new news.
Just the new news, not the old news. Yes, in a segment we're calling This Week in Horror. There was this is creepy. Did she just freeze or is it just me?
No, she froze.
Okay, good. She can cut that out. Okay, so there was a fire in Toms River, New Jersey, where the 1979 Amityville horror movie was filmed. That house caught on fire, which was not suspicious according to authorities, but they have not determined the cause yet. So mildly upsetting. Might be haunted. Don't know.
Get a Ouija board and we'll
go and head there and figure that out yourself. It'll never happen. What else? Spiral, the Book of Saw, comes out this week. I read a review in The Guardian of this movie and I felt bad, but I also expected this to happen. It was, quote, torturously bad. And then my favorite quote from this review: the film's emo aesthetic is as dated as the many tropes it lazily drags out. So yikes on that.
So wait, on the news, am I frozen still or am I back?
No, you're back. Welcome.
Okay.
I disconnected for a minute. The Spiral is just in the Saw universe, right? Or is Jigsaw involved in Spiral?
Yes, Jigsaw's dead. But it's somebody that is playing his game still, like carrying on the legacy.
Okay.
Don't know who, but
apparently they didn't do a very good job.
I had hoped with Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson being in this that it would be decent. I never saw any of the Saw movies and probably never will. But I was intrigued by the two of them being in it. I'm like, oh, I might actually watch this because I think it would be like a little bit elevated, a little bit better of a movie. But no.
I think that they're good themselves, but everything, like every other aspect of the movie, like they tried too hard, from what I read, to make a commentary about like cops, and that didn't land. So Saw is all about the torture porn and like these devices that this killer comes up with, but most of the bodies in this movie, like they're already dead when they found them, so like you didn't get to see any of those tortures happen.
Oh,
which is like the entire point of these movies. I've seen the first 4, deeply regret it, but so that was interesting to see. I'll probably watch it just because it got such bad reviews, but So yeah, May 14th, look out for that. Also, Those Who Wish Me Dead comes out this week. That has Angelina Jolie, Nicholas Hoult,
Is that
Tyler.
horror? I didn't
Yeah,
think
it's,
that
it's
was
a
horror.
neo-Western thriller.
Oh, okay.
That's what they're.
What Lies Beneath wasn't really horror either in any sense of any word. So
Yeah,
Well,
we
it's
like
got ghosts in it.
it was a suspense movie. It was Hitchcock.
we're broadening our horizons.
Yeah.
I think I feel like Hitchcock is horror though.
For sure.
I think Psycho's probably horror, but that's about as.
That's
The
another
Birds
show.
is horror.
FXX picked up a show Whitney will probably never watch. It's an animated horror called Little Demon, starring Danny DeVito and Aubrey Plaza and his daughter Lucy DeVito.
I loathe Aubrey Plaza.
Why?
Bugs me.
Her spooky aesthetic?
Maybe. I think she tries too hard.
Here's why you won't watch it. The devil impregnates the woman Aubrey Plaza. 13 years later, it catches up with her and her Antichrist daughter.
Yeah, no, not for me.
I was like, ooh, but I was
Maybe
interested.
A hard no for me.
I was interested that like Danny DeVito is still doing things outside of Always Sunny, but also it's animated, which piqued my interest even more.
That lowers my interest, if anything.
Oh, come on.
Because it's animated.
Do you hate like Family Guy and Big Mouth?
Yeah, I don't like those shows.
Of course, that makes sense. Okay.
I'm just into adult animated shows. I like Archer. It's about the only one.
Colin, what are your thoughts? Adult animated shows?
Not a one.
No?
No.
I am not with my people. I am not amongst my people.
I mean, The Simpsons, I like if I watch it, but I never watch it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those, if it's on and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, that's kind of interesting and entertaining, but I've never actually sat down to watch an episode of it. I don't like Family Guy. I don't like Seth
I like, the thing is, it's like
MacFarlane.
in other things, I like Seth MacFarlane. I like him in, what was that space show he had?
Oh, I
Odyssey?
didn't watch that.
Odyssey?
What was-
Something?
The new
no,
one,
it's not.
I know what you're talking about, but I didn't watch
It's
it.
called the Orville.
Orville, yeah.
Yes. So I like him in that. And I know like A Million Ways to Die in the West or 1,000 Ways to Die in the West, whatever it was.
Oh, God, that was terrible.
Everybody hated it. It didn't bother me. Like,
Oh,
I liked
God.
it. Like,
It
I
was
find him, I'm oddly
god-awful
attracted
bad.
to him.
God, awful bad.
Tall, lanky, slightly androgynous.
My God. Fair enough. Fair enough. The only other update I had was about the Scream 5, which is coming out January 14th, 2022. Courtney Cox did an interview and was real ambiguous about the whole thing. But she said, it's a new franchise, not a reboot, not a remake, just a new Scream. So like, thanks, Courtney.
So we're continuing on?
I don't know what to make of that. I have like some thoughts, but I'm gonna just reserve those for
okay. We know
January
for sure that one of the big three that are left are gonna die. For sure. Either Courtney Cox, Sydney,
Are you saying like unequivocally that is totally for sure, or you and your infinite movie wisdom are saying?
Me and my infinite movie wisdom.
I'm with
one
you.
of these three have to bite it. Dewey, Gail, or Sydney.
I feel like it's gonna be
they
Dewey.
one of them has to go.
Sydney's too obvious.
I was gonna say Sydney because she's I mean, the girl has lived, it's time. This girl's time on this earth is over. She probably wants it to be over. She's experienced so much. She's probably like, God, just let me get to heaven. I can rest. Finally.
They're not going to kill Dewey.
I don't think they'd kill Dewey either.
I think
they
that
originally
would
they
be
killed
the
Dewey.
Shock the world needs.
Well, they killed Dewey originally, and it did not test well with audiences at all.
I know, but now it's a million years later. They're like, we're gonna get you. I don't know.
A
We'll see.
million years.
It's kind of a million.
It's like 20.
Oh God, here I go offending
Like
you.
15. It's like 15 years later. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. There's a lot of I told you I was looking at a list of like upcoming horror movies that are coming out. There's a lot of good stuff coming out in 2021. I feel like we're going to get just an onslaught of stuff that got held up from COVID, and now we're just getting it all.
Well, Spiral was a project that got delayed by COVID, but
yeah, Quiet Place 2. Did you mention that
I didn't.
While I got cut.
I did not.
It's coming to theaters May 28th, I think.
That's crazy to hear, like things in theaters again. That's refreshing.
Yep. So, all right, that is our week in horror movie news. So, as per usual, we do not have our movie picked out for next week. And we probably won't until right before we record, because that's how we do things around here. I definitely want to thank Collin for coming on. I've been bugging him for seriously almost 2 years to come on. And he was finally like, fine, I'll do it. So,
I had to have a good reason to do it. And this was a good reason. So,
well, I'm still going to keep working on you so you can become a
but see,
regular.
now the ice has been broken, the seal's been broken, and
now you can just come on whenever.
now I can come on anytime.
Yeah. Before I do our typical stuff of where you can find us, do you want to tell the people where they can find you or plug anything that you want to do? You want to plug your reviews or anything?
No, I mean, you're not really going to find them anywhere. So,
Because you're not, yeah, you're just doing them on your personal like Facebook.
yeah, I put them up on Facebook and stuff like that. And they're not even really full movie reviews anymore. They're just like little paragraphs. But
those were the days. The
maybe
Examiner.
if we go back to the before times.
The before times.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, you can find us on the social media at Lights Camera No, except for Facebook, which is LCN Podcast. If you have a movie that you want us to review, you can always email us at lightscamerano@gmail.com. Lauren does a fancy little write-up of each of our episodes. Those are up on every Friday. That's when our new episodes come out. But of course, we're always here on Twitch every Wednesday recording live. So you guys can watch us make fools of ourselves in real time. So that's always fun. I want to thank everybody for listening/watching, and I hope you tune in next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Later, guys.
See you, Twitchers.
Stop.